you all so much for being here this afternoon. A new era in BC politics has begun. I'm honored to have been elected the leader of the new BC Conservative Party. And I want to thank everyone who encouraged me and helped me over the last few months. I want to thank my wife Sue and my family for their support as well. And I want to thank the party's growing membership for placing their trust in me. I will never forget that trust and promise as your leader always to fight for an honest, open, and conservative British Columbia. We're all here today because we want to build a real choice for voters in British Columbia. Instead of a government of insiders and narrow special interests, we need a government dedicated to reflecting the will, the values, and the priorities of the people of BC. Instead of a revolving door of self-serving Liberal and NDP governments, where all that is replaced is which set of insiders is getting rich, we need a real choice. A choice between common sense and politically correct nonsense, a choice between openness and closed doors, a choice between the people being in charge and the people being ignored and deceived. Christy Clark's government has already shown us why that choice is so badly needed. We hear a lot from the press about how smart Christy Clark is by stealing NDP ideas. In 2009, the NDP promised to hike the minimum wage to $10 per hour. The Liberals attacked it, saying it would cost 50,000 jobs. In 2011, Christy Clark raised the minimum wage to $10.25 an hour. She was praised for moving to the left and taking an NDP idea. This week, she announced her plan to fix the HST. Instead of making things simpler, she made them more uncertain. Instead of making BC more competitive, she attacked small business. Instead of trusting the people, she asked them to trust a government famous for breaking its word. Yeah. By putting the HST cuts until after the next election, Christy Clark wants people to trust her. Vote for the HST now and trust us, we'll cut it down the road. What people have to ask themselves is whether they can trust the Liberal government who lied about bringing in the HST, whether they can trust them to keep their promise to reduce it years from now. Instead of a referendum on the merits of the HST, the decision people will have to make is whether or not they trust the Liberal promises on the HST. There's wasting $200 million on Vote for Christy checks. $200 million that could have been invested in schools, hospitals, or roads. $200 million for a publicity stunt, and we all remember how the NDP were castigated and crucified for overspending $240 million on the fast ferries. Now, the damage that all this uncertainty has caused to our economy is significant. Economic growth is down 36% since the HST was announced. The Liberals have bungled the situation from start to finish, but all of BC pays the price as investors shy away, scared by uncertainty. Liberal incompetence is costing jobs in British Columbia. That's right. To top it off, Premier Clark is raising corporate tax rates, which has been an NDP promise in every election that I can remember. Small businesses are hurting in this province at the hands of this so-called free enterprise government that is supposed to be a friend of entrepreneurs and job creators. A Liberal government that wins votes by claiming to be economically responsible more so than the NDP. And yet what do we find? Christy Clark and Adrian Dix singing from the same song sheet. And Clark has only been Premier for 3 months. She's just getting started. So never mind us splitting the vote on the right. Now we've got unity on the left. That is why British Columbia needs the new BC Conservatives.
Yeah.
The Liberals' last remaining leg to stand on has been economic credibility, and in 3 short months, Premier Clark has kicked that out from under them. I spent 18 years in Ottawa fighting Liberals, and I've watched the Liberals in Victoria pretty closely as well. This is not a party that keeps its promises. You remember Jean Chrétien promising to abolish the HST in order to win votes? I know Christie does. And we see an imitation of that right here in British Columbia. I've always believed that you should be honest and upfront with people on the taxes you're going to ask people to pay. It's only fair. I campaigned with Stephen Harper to lower the GST from 7% to 5%, and we kept our word on this. The same cannot be said about Christy Clark and the Liberals. The record of the Liberals, first under Gordon Campbell and now Christy Clark, has been a litany of broken promises, arrogance and deceit. Consider how this government operates. In the 2009 election, they assured us the HST wasn't even under consideration, while at the same time they were holding meetings on how to implement it. The largest change in BC's tax structure in decades, all planned in secret, all denied in the middle of an election campaign. I'm sorry, but that's not what I call open and honest government. And this wasn't the first time. Nowhere in their 2005 election platform was there a single mention of a carbon tax. But once safely in power, they imposed an illogical tax grab of epic proportions. But there's more. In the 2001 election, Liberals promised not to sell BC Rail. Not only did they break their promise, but the process was so corrupt that law enforcement officials had no option other than to raid the legislature. A raid that ended up with the truth buried and taxpayers holding a $6 million bill for a plea bargain with the guilty. The Liberals say one thing and do the opposite, and the people of BC always end up having to pay the tab. Now, as secretive and dishonest as this government has been, they have also been wholly negligent when it comes to public safety. Under the Liberals, violent and gang-related crime has dominated the headlines. And this is not just the case in the Lower Mainland, but across the province. We need more police. The police need more resources. The province needs more prosecutors. There aren't enough judges to handle the backlog of cases. Charges are being thrown out because we don't have enough sheriffs to secure courtrooms. And in the middle of the gang war that gripped the province in the early 2009, the government actually cut the number of prosecutors. No money for prosecutors in 2009, but apparently now there's no shortage of funds to blow millions upon millions of dollars on lucrative severance packages for senior staff and political appointees. These are the priorities of the BC Liberals. All over the province, I speak to parents who have recently taken their children out of the public education system or are planning to do that. Parents who aren't necessarily well off or even religious are lining up to enroll their children in private schools. They are fed up with being ignored by a system that prioritizes the teachers' union and not the real clients of the system, parents and children.